Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. We want to let you know that we have once again been honored with a nomination for the Hockey Podcast of the Year via the Sports Podcasting Awards. And all you need to do to help us is go to ourkidsplayhockey.com and click on the Vote Now button. It asks you a couple questions. You're in and you're out, and you have voted for us for Hockey Podcast of the Year. I want to thank you all for being a wonderful, wonderful audience and helping us get to this stature of hockey podcasting, because we've done it as a family, as the hockey friends and families around the world. Thanks so much and enjoy this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. What's up, everybody? It's Lee. Welcome back to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Today's topic is a good one. It's how to create a great coaching staff. And look, there's no one way to do it. Different personalities, different people, different situations, but we definitely dive into a lot of tips and tactics that you want to look for when creating a coaching staff. And then, of course, we have a great discussion about what makes a great coaching staff. I'm really proud of this episode and what we've done. And listen, we've got a lot of support from you. And if you want to continue to show that support, you know what time it is. Check out whenhockeystops.com. Check out the children's book that Christie and I wrote dealing with adversity and all the life lessons that the game teaches. For those of you that pre-ordered already, thank you. The book is going to be in the mail starting about the time this episode is being heard. So check it out, whenhockeystops.com. Get the book, get some free gifts along the way. And above all, you're helping to support us here at Our Kids Play Hockey. And also, if you do love this content, make sure that you subscribe on your favorite podcast network. Leave us a review. Leave us an endorsement. It's a big deal for us when you do that. It really helps the show. We hope that we're helping you, obviously, with the information. So without further ado, enjoy this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Take care, everybody. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. As always, an organic topic today came up in discussions from the group here. We're going to be talking about how to craft, how to build, how to formulate a great coaching staff. And here's the deal. This is actually not an easy, this is how you do it type answer, because when you get to different levels, sometimes you have one coach. Sometimes you get to a level and there's too many coaches. Sometimes you get to a level and you got good coaches, you got bad coaches. So how do you do it? Right. So that's going to be the discussion that we have today. I'm joined, as always, by my good friends, my therapy session hosts, Christy Casciato Burns and Mike Benelli. Guys, obviously, always great to be here with you. But I love this topic because I think there's a lot of actionable things we can do or tips we can give everybody. I guarantee you, I just know this from talking with Christy, guarantee you there's going to be parts of this that you at home haven't thought about, and that's okay, that are going to come up because it's just, sometimes we get tunnel vision with, I need to build this coaching staff. But Christy, let's start with you, because you said something the other day when we were chatting about this that didn't really wasn't the first thought in my head. And I thought it was a really great point, but you mentioned your daughter's teams and what some coaches had done in the past. And then we'll get into like a little more step-by-step as we go on.
Yeah. First of all, newsflash, coaching is not easy. You have to wear so many hats. You're a teacher, you're a counselor, you're a role model. You got to deal with unruly parents. You got to deal with kids who may be going through some difficulties as well. You need help. So you want to build a staff. And I feel like this is not really my wheelhouse, but this is just my own personal observations. You definitely want to build a staff that's going to support you, lift you up, be there when you feel like everything is falling apart. One of our coaches, this was just brilliant. He had 3 girls on the team, a mostly boys team. There were 3 girls, and he wasn't really knowledgeable about women's hockey. So he recruited a woman who played college hockey, a friend of his, and he asked, "Hey, Alyssa, will you come and help me coach the team? It's a mostly boys team, but I got 3 girls on the team, and I think you'd be a great role model for them." It was brilliant because the boys got to see this fantastic college hockey player, and our girls got to have a role model, someone who went through all the same experiences at that age, playing with boys, mostly boys. And she was a great counselor to them, so a shoulder to lean on when they were having difficulty, when there was some tension with the boys and the girls, how to work through it. It was brilliant. So I encourage any coach who has a couple of girls on the team, and it's mostly a boys team, to recruit a woman to help you coach. It's great for the boys. It's great for the girls. It's something that a lot of coaches may not really think about, just like, fall in line and, there are some little nuances that the women can address that you may not see.
Well, Christy, you're
pass
bringing up
along
a
that
great and important point. All right. And I wanted to start with that story because, again, when you told me that, I thought that it really is a great idea
Yeah.
for multiple reasons. But here's the key. And this is why I wanted to start with that story. To build a great coaching staff, right? And this, to start, we're assuming you have resources at your back that you can get parents or other people to help you. But to build a great coaching staff, it is about knowing what you can do well and then filling in gaps to surround yourself to make that complete staff. You said it. The head coach of that team understood they were missing something, or he lacked the ability to communicate with the girls on the team. And again, we're just using girls as an example here. You can implant D here. You can implant lots of different words there. And he went upon himself. And this is really the key to a great coach, in my opinion, to say, okay, I need to fill this gap. I'm going to bring someone in to do it. It turned into a positive experience. So that's going to be my first tip as I turn to you, Mike, to make a great coaching staff. And this is the mistake a lot of coaches make. It's the head coach of the hierarchy of the assistant coaches, and I'm in charge. That is not what makes a great coaching staff. What makes a great coaching staff is, yes, there is a head coach that is the person in charge that kind of walks the line. Then they surround themselves with great coaches that fill their gaps. I'll tell a great story later about that, but Mike, I want to turn to you and your thoughts on creating a good coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a collaborative effort, right? You have to have the ability to have somebody not only push back, but also, get people on your staff that have the confidence that they know they have the confidence in you or from you, that what they say you're going to listen to, right? If you want cone pushers, that's easy. There's plenty of parents that will be cone pushers,
and they'll come out. Yeah,
there's a lot of people, but I think for me, the best coaching staffs that I've had are really the ones that want to debate, that want to inject, that want to run drills, that want to try new things, and that want to challenge me. Because if they're not challenging me as a coach, it just really becomes, they're not really on the staff. Right, they're just basically skills people, or they're just instructors.
Hold up there, because we had a tap on this, okay? Because we really have to explain what challenging means. This is where a lot of coaches, coaching staffs fall apart. All right. You have to build the trust first in your staff before you can do that. So, for example, what Mike is saying, and a lot of you are going to go, I get that, but if you don't build the trust first, I've seen this go the opposite way. He's saying that I trust my assistant coaches to come to me and say, hey, I would do this differently. And then there is a reverse trust there that an assistant coach will understand. If Mike, the head coach, decides not to follow this path, that's his right as the head coach. That is the trust understanding. When I work in pro sports, it's the same thing. My job as an assistant coach is to make suggestions to the head coach, to make observations to the head coach. It is the head coach's job and responsibility to take that information and make decisions. That is not my job, even if I think it's my job. And this is where you get in trouble in youth hockey. All right. I've seen this so many times of an assistant coach that thinks they should be the head coach. Okay. And don't get me wrong, people. There's nothing wrong if you have aspirations to be a head coach one day. But that does not mean you work against your coaching staff. It doesn't mean you talk behind the head coach's back. I'm not speaking from personal experience here so much as just understanding the situation. So when trust exists, an assistant coach, Mike, as you said, whether you're the head coach or that assistant coach, should be able to make those observations, make those suggestions with the understanding that the head coach does or does not have to follow them.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm hiring, like when I'm in the real coaching world, like coaching prep school or college or high school.
And we will break this down by level in a little bit.
But when you're hiring, right, for coaching staffs, one of the true marks of a great coach is that you can build a coaching tree, right? That you look at these great, like the Bill Parcells and the Bill Belichick's of the world in hockey,
all
like
the Bills,
Al McCormick used to be the coach at Cortland State. And if you go back to Cortland State back in the late 80s and 90s, and you look at, Nate Lehman, coach of Providence College, Derek Lassonde, assistant coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning, all these guys and all these coaches that are coaching right now come from this coaching tree. And one of the and then assistant coaches come out of that group, right? Because a good head coach is going to want to say, I'm bringing you in because I want you to become a great head coach, but you can't fight against me. Like at the youth level, it happens. And I do, this experience is probably too often, right? That you'll get unless you do a good job of like really vetting, who you're going to jump on the bench with, that you get to say you can't be at the bar in the tournament saying, I cannot believe your kid's not playing. I've been telling Benelli he should be playing,
Right.
and he doesn't want to listen to me. If it was me, and then all of a sudden you get
totally.
seven parents say, we need you as the coach. We need you as the coach. And that happens a lot. And
it happens a lot. I want to reiterate that. Yes.
Yeah.
Right, but I think that's just, but I think to your point,
there's a coup.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and it's not only when it's going bad. Sometimes it's because at any given time in your season, it could be going bad for some group, right? If the if we're winning, and Lee does this every day, right? If the team's winning, but the group that's winning the games isn't part of the group that's not contributing because you haven't built the contribution trust, then this group here is just beating it down and eating it up. And then you get a coach that feels like they're not valued. Then you have these different alliances. And I think that's like I've often said this, and I have these talks all the time about, jobs that come up and opportunities. And like me, I'm just a horrible assistant coach. Like I'm not a good, like I know that going in. Like most people are like, oh, Mike, you got to come coach with me. I go, you don't want me. I'm just not a good assistant coach. I'm not, I'm just
it's
not
important
good.
that you know that though, Mike. All right.
I think there's a lot of coaches that want to coach that maybe have to go through that role first and say like, listen, I don't really like deferring to this person. I want to be the leader. Okay, well then learn all that, because there's so many, we could get into, like there's so many other aspects of what a coaching staff looks like. Maybe it depends on what role you're in on that coaching staff.
Right. Well, I'll tell you this, Mike, just to follow up with that real quick. One of the things, again, I started coaching when I was 22. I was really young, college coaching, and kind of stopped my playing for this. And I was always put into this leadership position. And I'll tell you what, we did good, but I realized there were some major gaps in my coaching. And this is kind of to your point, and you've understood this. I realized I needed to become an assistant coach to become a better head coach. Mm-hmm. Right. So what I did was I started to volunteer to be an assistant role, which I'm not gonna lie, it was super hard for me. Like you're saying, because I'm typically in the leadership position and I'm used to making decisions and those things happening. And suddenly you're in this position where you're really just supporting somebody else. I'm going to tell you this, it became one of the greatest experiences that could have ever happened for me. And one of the things that, and this is so true, right? I think about this. I was a good assistant coach, and I am a good assistant coach, but it's because I was a head coach first, right? Because I understand my role as an assistant coach. My role is to assist the head coach. That's the role. It's not to coach the team. Now, I might have some responsibilities like special teams or defense that fall under line with being an assistant coach. But at the end of the day, the role is to assist the head coach to do his or her job, right? And I'm so thankful for that experience. But if I wasn't a head coach first, I definitely would have been the ambitious assistant coach that was trying to get the job. I'm right. How does he not listen to me? And don't get me wrong, no matter what, you will go through points like that as a head or an assistant coach throughout the season. Every assistant coach is going to question the head coach at some point. That's okay. It's, does the trust exist to know that, okay, I don't agree with him here or her there here, but that's their job, right? Remember, especially at the top level, for everybody to understand, the prep school level, the pro level, the minor league level, there's a pretty easy judge of if a coach is good. It's wins and losses, right? So at that level, if you're not good, you're going to get fired at some point, anyway. All right. Now at the youth level, it's a little more complicated. Christy, I'd love to hear your question.
Both of you guys have coached. I've never coached. And we know that a coaching staff.
You're a parent, you've coached. To be fair, go
true.
ahead.
That's true. I'm coaching every day, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, you're a parent.
I had a bad coaching day yesterday, but anyway, so we know we've established that the coaching team is just as important as having a good players, right? You have to surround yourself.
A team within the team. Yeah,
a team within it. That's an important team. How many is too many? Because you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen.
Question. Yeah, I think it depends on the level. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that's my question. Let's take youth level.
Right.
And 8U.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Again, I got to preface this too. It comes down to resources too, because there are teams with one coach out there. By the way, all the teams with one coach, singular coaches, God bless you. I really mean that, because it's not easy. It can be done, but it's not easy. My U8 team has 4 coaches and we have 10 kids. So
wow,
basically,
that seems like a lot.
It does, but it's been awesome, and we all really understand our roles. Now, what I like about it, keep in mind, this is like a classroom because it's U8. The kids get a lot of individual attention. We have a guy who's with the goalies. We can split the team in half, so it's really good. Now, where it becomes crazy, it's funny you brought that up, Christy, is on the bench. So at U8, sometimes you're splitting benches with another team. But this is the type of coaching staff we have. We had a game out in Harrisburg this weekend that traveled through the snow. It was interesting. We were splitting a bench, and the bench was really short. So I just made the decision, like, I'm just going to stand off the bench to the side. I don't need to be here because there's too many coaches here. But that's the type of coaching staff we have. There's no ego there of like, no, I need to be on the bench because I'm one of the assistant coaches on my side. I just kind of moved off to the side to give them the space. One of the other coaches who's a dad and played at a high level hadn't been there in a few weeks. It was just, I had no problem with that because, it's a developmental team. Now, obviously the higher levels you go up, in my opinion, and Mike might disagree with me on this, 3 to 4 coaches is totally appropriate. When you get to the middle school, high school level, I think you should, if you're doing it right, you have a head coach, offense coach, defense coach, and potentially a team building special teams. There might be other ways to do it, but I think 3 to 4 is actually appropriate. If you're doing it correctly, because at that level, and Mike, again, I'll throw it to you. I think the head coach really needs to be paying attention to the full gamut of the team. And if he's focused on offense or defense solely, it can become a problem. Again, based on the resources and availability you have. This is not always the case if there's not enough coaches. Mike, I throw it to you too, though.
Yeah. I was just on a call with Tim Bothwell, who's the women's Olympic assistant coach with the Danish women's team, and this guy Gino Gasparini, who played in the NHL for a long time. He runs the Chicago Mission in Chicago, and we just talked about setting up your benches and the challenges of finding good staffs at any level, right? And we focus on the youth level, but because we're talking to a youth hockey audience, but I think I personally, like, I would joke when I do my parent presentations that as many parents as I can get on the bench with me would be great. Right. Because then, when the ship goes down, then we're all going down together. Like, I'd rather have the bitchers and the moaners on the bench with me.
Right.
They're part of the problem. They can't yell about me. So I like them being on the bench with me.
You want the Titanic scenario. You want the orchestra playing as the ship
I want everybody playing with me on the bench. So I can turn around and say, yeah, we're all part of the problem here. It's not just me.
No, that's wishful thinking, Mike.
But I think there is, if you have parameters, and you could get good people to follow the parameters, like, and Tim talked about this. I like being more in the back. I like running the team. I like being able to say, listen, I need you to run the forwards. I need you to run the D at the youth level. I need you to open the door. I need
filling
you to
in gaps.
I need you to pick up the breezers and throw the kid over the high boards. And I probably would love somebody sitting in the stands. Like, you could give somebody a moniker of eye in the sky, or just, doing stats or doing turnovers. And, at the youth level, you don't get to really talk to the kids in between periods. You probably shouldn't talk to them in between periods other than rah. But, because they're not
get some water, sit down,
change their game. Like, they're not going to change the strategy.
Right.
Yeah. In the 8U game. But at the 8U level, like, really the way the ADM set up and USA Hockey set up, really at the 8U level, that most kids in that are playing cross ice hockey and playing station-based programming. You really need 8 or 9, 10 coaches, but you need coaches that understand their role. I was an assistant coach to a head that ran the ADM program, and I was station 6 guy. That's it. Station 6. Do your job, Mike. You're station 6 guy.
We're talking practice. Totally.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything else.
But
then in the games, I just sat in the stands and some, because you're really not coaching. I mean, you at that, and then the 10-year-old, 11-year-old, yes, you start getting coaching. But when you start getting the ego that you're actually coaching the game, like where you're influencing it so much, and really all you're doing is shortening the bench and saying, I'm going to put my best kids out there. You're not really coaching. You're just you're managing.
Mike, we said it this weekend to the 8U team. Like, you hear this at the high levels. We said the 8U team. And look, let's be honest. 8-year-olds have a hard time focusing. There's nothing that's not unnatural. But we told them, and I don't think we were wrong. We said, and not in a negative way, look, we can tell you all we want, but you kids play the games. You guys, you girls, you play the games, not us. So we can give suggestions, but at the end of the day, I didn't think it was too early to give that message. Do they understand it and comprehend it? I don't know, but it's the right message. The other thing too, Mike, you're bringing up, Which is a great point. So yeah, we should have separated practices and games. I think in practices, as you said, every station should have a dedicated coach that they're staying in that station. They understand the drill. They understand the purpose of the drill. Parents can do that. High level coaches can do that. At a quadrant ADM practice, it's irrelevant. Your job is just to do a good job in that.
Even at the older
role.
levels, Lee. I'm on Monday nights with Martin St. Louis. He doesn't really coach stations anymore, right? It's a station-based practice. These are the best, some of the best players on the East Coast.
Yes,
and they're all on stations. But he's not. NHL. He lays the team. It's the plan is laid out,
right?
And then the head coach, which is him in this situation, gets to go out and interact with every one of those kids,
right? Which is what you need to do in that role. Again, we're talking about roles again.
Right, and nobody else is saying, "Oh, what the hell is he doing getting in my station?"
Well, if anybody says that to Martin St. Louis, they probably shouldn't be coaching hockey. But I will say this, okay? So, Christy, just going back to your question, I think minimum on a bench in a game 2, and I just think that makes sense because you're gonna miss something. Even at the younger levels, I fear sometimes like, oh man, who did I sit last because we have an extra player today? And I never want to take away a kid's ice time by accident. And it does happen. It does happen. You know, it's never on purpose. I think 2 minimum. Again, there's teams out there with 1 coach because that's all they can get. God bless you.
Plus, if you got to get kicked off the ice for yelling at an official, you need to get another person on the ice.
Right. But the other thing I'll tell you is this.
Right. And it's good to have backups too, because if you get sick or, you
need someone,
something happens, you've got a family emergency. Right. It's always good to have some backups that you can rely on. How important is it that everybody on your coaching bench, on your coaching team has the same philosophy as you? Punctuality, how to discipline kids. How important is that you're all on the same page?
Insanely. If you don't have that, it will collapse. Now,
to be fair, you have somebody who's showing up late all the time.
Okay. To be fair, I'll use that as an example. Showing up on time, depending on the life situation, right? So like our practices are at 4:15 in the afternoon. That's not the optimal time with anyone with a job, right? Okay. So we have some leeway with that. At the level I coach at the higher levels, I have 0 tolerance for lateness, right? So you have to decide that. But to your point, you must establish with your coaching staff before even with the team, if you can, these are our standards. These are the standards we have as a coaching staff. I was going to ask you guys this as a trivia question, because when I coach coaches, I ask this all the time. I'm all about building team bonds, trust, accountability. Who on a hockey team, or really any team, is the biggest threat to a team bond? What do you think the answer is to that? The biggest threat to a team bond on any team?
Coach.
It's the head coach.
I was going to say the parents.
No, it's the head coach.
Well, because you could get sucked into the parents. I mean, you could
listen, the coaching staff and it's specifically the head coach and the coaching staff. You set the standards for your coaching staff and your team. You cannot break your own standards. You cannot be hypocritical with your own standards. Right? If the coaching staff is broken, if you're fighting on the bench or off the bench with other parents about ice time and, oh, I should be head coach, like that you did that before, Christy and Mike, like this is how it should be. You're killing your team. And worse, it's not even about the kids anymore at that point. And I'm going to tell you both this. I have seen this more times than I'd like to admit. Egotistical, horrible mentalities that destroy a team. Okay. And I'm not going to say to you that there's not problems that happen. Okay. Things happen in life. Not every team is destined to be awesome and win and do it every single year. Okay. But I have to bring up ego because that is so detrimental to coaching staffs. It's not about you in youth hockey. It never is. Okay. It isn't even in the pros if you think about it. All right. I always compliment the team I'm on. I'm so fortunate this year, and I mean that. I know it. I'm on a great group, great parents, great coaches, great kids. I'm enjoying every moment because I know how fortunate I am because I've been on other teams that weren't like this. But the ego is not there. I don't feel like there's an ego with any coach on the bench. We help each other out. I've had conversations of, hey, can you talk to my kid? Can you talk to this kid? Because I think you're better suited for that. It's not about me. Great example too. We're adaptable. If one of the coaches on the bench in a game is very vocal, right? And people who know me know this team, we can laugh. We have one coach who's very vocal. I'm a vocal guy. I host podcasts for a living mostly, right? I know when he's very vocal, I need to back up on how loud I am that game. And it's not because I don't want to say something. We don't need 4 yellers on the bench at that time, right? I adapt to the situation, right? And if he's not there, I might be more vocal. That's a really good cohesive coaching staff. We all trust each other. Here's the other thing I want to say real quick, right? We know this from the show, right? I have some experience in the game. And I said this at the beginning of the year. My experience in the game is completely irrelevant at the 8U level. So yeah, I know a lot about the game, but I haven't coached 8U. I'm learning from these guys, these coaches, and I ask them questions all the time, right? And it's great because that's a gap in my coaching that they fill. There's a respect there for that. I didn't come in going, well, listen, guys, I have professional championships to my name and I coach college and you just need to listen to me. I didn't do that. I don't know what I'm doing at the 8U level. Like I have my own things I got to work on with competitiveness at that level. My point is, because I'm getting excited.
We like that.
I could tell, right? This staff that I'm on, I'm thankful for it. We all fill each other's gaps perfectly. There's a mutual respect. Christy, you asked the question. There is a standard of respect. There's a standard of trust. There's a standard of teamwork. If one of us can't be there, the other one steps up, right? I have felt zero tension on my coaching staff this year. I can't tell you how rare that is, right? To me, that's it being done right. Adversely, I have been on staffs where I know an assistant coach is after my job or trying to actively sabotage another coach. Right? And listen, I got to say this again. Like I know there's a-holes out there. I know people are people. Like, don't get me wrong. Right? Like that's why I said before I started here, not every situation is fixable. Sometimes you need to remove people from the staff. It's not easy.
Would you fire them?
Yeah. Listen, if I had a disruptive parent,
the exit door, you're out of here. Have you ever had
I have
to
a
do that?
disruptive parent on the bench and I am the head coach because that's their job. It's not the assistant coach's job. I might make the suggestion. I want them removed from the bench. All right. And I shouldn't say I don't care what happens after that. I would probably explain it in a way that made sense. They're probably not going to be happy about it, but I'm in charge. These, if I'm the head coach, those kids are my responsibility.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't want any venom on my bench. All right. And again, I'm not talking about a parent that's hard on the kids. I'm talking about someone who's detrimental to the team and the development of the children. All right. And unfortunately, there's a lot of them out there. They probably don't listen to this show, but there's a lot of them out there. I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to throw it back to you too, because I'm talking a lot. It's not about you as a coach, ever. If you're not looking at the players on your team like they're your kids and your family, you're doing it wrong, in my opinion. It's not about you. Younger coaches without kids, first off, God bless you for volunteering your time. You love the game. That's going to be the hardest lesson for you. If you got into coaches and you don't have kids or a kid on the team, I'm not saying that that's something that's bad, but I'm saying you have to understand that kids are still the purpose of the coaching. It's not about you and what you know. It's about, can you get this group to work together? Can you develop them? Is every player included, including the best player to the worst player? Have you created a cohesive environment where people will learn and grow and be better? Every team I've won with had that. I've never been on a team that won that did not have that, ever. It's never happened.
Yeah.
Now that I'm done yelling.
No, that's
passionate about this stuff. This is like my reason for being on this planet.
Yeah. So, Mike, what do you do if you've got somebody on your bench who's toxic, who's maybe a screamer, yeller, degrading, though, not in a positive way? Because we established last week in our podcast that it's okay to scream and yell if it helps to motivate, but not to degrade. So what if you've got some toxicity on your bench?
Turn of a situational screamer.
Yeah. Right. So
how do you deal with that? Do you just say there's the door, you're out, or do you try and work with this person? What do you do?
Well, I think it's just a couple of layers there, right? Because it all depends on if you did your job with vetting the people you put on your bench, then hopefully you're not, I often say this about parents that come to me, after 3 months into a season and they can't believe their kid's playing for a coach and they're horrified. And the person is just so negative and abusive. And I have so little patience for those people now because you knew going in who that person was. There's no way in this world today that you don't know. And we've talked about this on the episode before, go and you've done it in your book. It's just being, really go do your research and find out who is coaching. And I think the same thing goes for coaching. If you're going to bring people on the bench, you know who's going to throw a water bottle at a ref. You know that. You do. Yeah. And just you got to know it ahead of time. And you're going to know the guy that the girl that's going to, not be able to be in that situation. I mean, I was just reading, and Lee brings us up just about culture and about, setting those standards. And I was just reading a book on Sherman and talking about how he, would, if his troops didn't have water, he'd pour his own water out.
Right.
If they had to sleep out in the cold, he slept out in the cold.
Right.
And if they had to march 10 miles, he marched 12.
Servant leadership.
And that's the kind of stuff. And you see that we just saw it recently with a professional football coach, right? That he flew his team back and they had to go eat, meals on the plane. And he went out to a fancy restaurant, had steaks and drinks and margaritas and danced all night, right? Where's he? Fired, done. And just because you can't. You have to be, and if you're that coach, and that's the staff you want to put around you. Listen, I can't tell you how many, I've coached the college level, the prep school level, the high levels of high school. And I can't tell you how, it really disappointed me that some of the people that were on the staff, like when I was an assistant coach, and not understand, like when I was coaching in college, I didn't go out for beers in town. I had to drive to a different town. I had to go somewhere else. I had to have the self-control that you can't just, and it's the same thing when you're hiring your staff. Just be aware of the type of people you're going to put on the bench with you. Be aware they're going to have like values, and be aware that maybe you want, I was saying this in an earlier conversation about, some of the best coaches that I've hired at any level have been players that played for me, and they've been so great at coaching with me because number one, I think they go, oh, geez, I didn't realize how much you actually do, outside of what we do. I mean, this is crazy. Right. Like, you do this all the time? Like, this is what you used to do for us? I'm like, yeah, where the hell have you been? But then the other side of it is like, they can go to a kid and say, and I want them to be that coach. Oh, listen, Coach Benelli's riding you. I know it. He just wants this. You know what he did for me when I was a senior? Or, hey, he's going to get on you about this, but this is why. And this is the reason. Or conversely, hey, and then, it's a little comfortable, right? So some of the kids call me Mike. Some still kids call me Coach. Hey, Coach, so-and-so's having a rough week. Did you know this? And they can have those relationships. So as you get higher and higher in the chain of coaching, you start to really learn the relationships of the people you're coaching. At the college level where your daughter is, there's going to be some people on the staff that know much more. Like me, the only reason I got on social media back in the day was just to keep track of my players, to see what the heck they were doing. Because I'm like, what is this thing they're doing on this Facebook? Like, what are they doing? Like, how are they having these conversations on Twitter? I have no idea, and that's how you get into it. And I think you start to see but if you have people in your group on your, staff, I don't even call it a staff, really, the youth hockey organization. I mean, you are the team. You're a group of parents mostly that wants what's best for your kids. And what are you going to do to work together to make a great experience for your kids? Well, that's going to work. We're going to work together, and we're not going to like it all. But I think Talise brought this up a million times when we've had these conversations. Come in with a plan, collaborate on the plan, have agreement on the mission statement, and then you can go out and teach it. And if you do those things ahead of time, you're going to be successful. If you wing it, just like practice, if I go to practice tonight with 60 kids and one coach and I wing it, there'll be 15 emails tomorrow that their kids didn't have fun and my kid didn't get the touch.
My money back.
Yeah. I want my money back. This is not what I paid for. I agree with them. I'm like, you're absolutely right.
Right.
Like, and I see other coaches do that. It disrespects the job of coaching, and so it's just so I don't miss it. You're going to get a coaching staff. It's a crazy world we're living in. Get a background check. Get your safe sport done.
Yeah. Background checks are
get certified.
Well, hopefully your team and organization make that happen.
Yeah, but sometimes it's like you just got to remind people. Like I'm by nature I'm a rule follower. It's probably my parents. I'm just a rule follower, right? I'm like, okay, if you're gonna yell at a kid for being late, don't be late. If you're gonna be a kid for not having his equipment properly, then maybe wear a helmet. If you're gonna yell at a kid about tobacco and alcohol, maybe don't have a lipper in during practice and spitting over the bench. I mean, is it that hard? Is it that difficult?
Yeah.
And
that goes back to what I said. That goes back to what I said
day.
about following your own rules. You can't break your own rules on your team.
But we do every day. And we make excuses like, no, I'm a head coach. I'm a pro. I don't need to wear a helmet. But it's the rules. If you don't like the damn rules, go and petition and get rid of them.
Right.
Or don't coach.
Or don't
you
coach.
Don't like I say this all the time. I'm not I get accused as a USA Hockey shill all the time. I really don't care. I mean, USA Hockey is what it is. If you don't like it,
you're right. We shouldn't follow the organization that has several gold medals in World Junior Championships. What would they know?
I'm saying is if you disagree, with the way the coaching program is, then get involved and
do something up
and change it or
evolve it.
Don't benefit from it. Do your own thing. And
Mike, you're making a good point, Mike. Is just like that's how change is made, by speaking up, not by complaining or bitching on social media.
I say, I want, we don't do enough of this. We don't do enough of this. I agree. You know, what'd be great. Why don't you help us by you be the video parent,
right?
Be the video coach, compile the 17 hours of clips that I need to teach this, and then I will be.
Mike, you should just do it.
Just do it. What else are you doing all day? What are you doing all day? And Mike, I think so going back to just coaches, right? Just make sure you know who you're putting on the bench.
Right.
Make sure you vet them. If you want somebody that's going to counteract you, great. If you're going to have a fiery person, great. I love that. I mean, I'm the fiery guy on my bench. I love having two people that are like, this guy's lost his mind. But and somebody that can grab you. Like, coach, wake up, and boom, you're right back. Okay, I got you. Yeah,
the trust is there. It's not judgmental.
Right.
Mike, like, hey, coach, one thing I got to say, and you brought this up, Mike, is that it's kind of like one of those quick statements of, if your coaching staff can't operate as a team, how can you expect your team to operate as a team? You can't give somebody something you don't have. If you have a broken coaching staff, you're going to have a broken team.
Yeah. And I think, but you can control that. And we all get like lost in, like, one of the things that I want to be, if you're going to ask me to coach, then make sure you give me responsibility.
Have a role.
Plan. And give me a role. Yeah. I'm not adverse to that, but don't ask me to coach. And then what do you want me to do? Just stand there? I mean,
the roles are important.
That's what backup goalies are for, to open the door, not me.
You're bringing up another really good point for this episode, is that you have to have a role. Right. Every great coaching staff I've been on, you know your role, you know your responsibilities, and you have a job to do. We talked about this with players on the team as well, right? Your players have to have roles, but it's the same thing in a coaching staff. And the head coach's job, in my opinion, is to make sure that you establish those roles, discuss it with your assistants, and then let them have the role. Don't try and control them in their role. It's another mistake, especially younger coaches, myself included when I was younger. I have to control everything. No, you don't. That's why you have the other people there.
It's so cool too when you empower people to be a coach and let them do things. They come up with stuff. You're like, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Like, you came up with that. Like, I really like that you came up with that idea or that plan and go with it. I mean, I think this is great. And I think the biggest thing too, I'll give you one quick example of when I hired. So a couple of years ago, many years ago, we had a nice state championship Connecticut team. And the year before we struggled, not terrible. We were a good team, but we missing pieces, right? So what happened? 2 head coaches had gotten fired. The first 2 people that got phone calls. So on my bench on year 2, we had 2 head high school coaches with me on the bench. And I can't tell you the looks I would get, from my colleagues. Like, this guy's going to take your job. Like, why would you hire that guy? He's a head coach. He wants your job. I'm like, well, I'm pretty confident in myself. And I'm like, well, I want him to be the best. If he's striving to be the best coach and wants to get out from under this, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe he likes the role of the assistant coach. Maybe he likes the role of saying, because you forget, right, Christie? Everybody thinks the head coach is just coaching the team.
Right.
He's probably like today. I wish I could share my phone screen with you right now, right? There's 17 text messages about this weekend schedule. Somebody's wondering about what the kids are going to do for Sunday. Somebody wants to know that 5 kids can't come to practice. Somebody else wants to know when the goalie coach is coming. Somebody wants to know why the video hasn't been updated from this weekend. Another person wants to know if we're doing an end of the year party, when the banquet's going to be, if we're going to retake a team picture, if we're going to, and by the way, wants to know why I can't read that one. So the rest of it, so
every coach watching right now can relate to this.
So the bottom line for me is, there's so much that goes into it. Delegate, get those really good people to go out there. And when I had these two head coaches on the bench with me, what they were relieved of was like, I don't have to do any of that crap. Like, I don't have to go to the league meetings. I don't have to go to I don't have to go get sponsorships. I don't have to go to the parent meeting. I don't have to go to the principal's office because so-and-so has been late every day for a week and I'm trying to get this person to a game. You really get to coach. One of the things that really hurt me the most was when I took over in my district for the coaching education team, and you become the coach in chief. You become the CIC of the East District. I don't get to coach anymore. I don't even get to speak. I'm worried about budgets and setting the roster up and making sure the audio visual works.
Yeah, you're managing.
Right? That's same. Yeah. But if you really love coaching, sometimes being on a coaching staff as the assistant coach is the most coaching you're ever going to do.
Well, it's like a pilot, right? Like in the Air Force, right? You don't want to get the desk. You don't want to get promoted because you get out of the plane. You get out of the jet.
Like, oh crap! I want that energy. I want that.
Right.
I think,
but you know yourself, Mike. And again, this is something. Every coach is different. You got to find out what you're good at. And great coaches help to delegate responsibilities and understand what somebody else should be doing and needs to be doing in order to be successful. This goes back to the very start of the episode, filling each other's gaps. Right. Mm-hmm. Again, great story. I'll tell you guys real quick. When I was coaching in the UK, the head coach is and still is one of the best tacticians I have ever worked with, ever. Brilliant hockey mind. Right. And he told me this. He understood that I had an ability to speak to the players in a way he couldn't do that. And I will always give him credit for understanding that and saying, I need you in that role. And I understood my role and I executed on it. Right. We were a great coaching staff because of that. And if I had tactical advice that I thought I wanted to give him, I gave it to him. He took it. And if he didn't do it, that's fine. That was the understanding. Right. And the same thing, if he needed a message to the players, he didn't just do it. He came to me. How should I say this? What should I do? Right. So you have to learn how to fill in each other's gaps. And if ego is there, it will ruin that for you. You cannot allow ego to play into that equation. If you think you know better than the head coach, have a freaking discussion. Okay. And deal with the outcome. Don't complain about it. Don't get mad. Again, if it happens over and over and over again, make a decision on whether you want to stay with the team or adversely, you want that coach to be on your staff. Turnover happens all the time. But look, like again, based on availability
have a secret lunch with the influential parents and get them out of there.
Yeah. Look, I was on a team staff one time and this was devastating. And I'll talk about this. I had assistant coaches eating with players behind my back and didn't know about it. And it started to rip the team apart. Now, look, it's easy, just so everybody listens and understands this. It would be very easy for me to say, how could they do that? That was their fault. At the end of the day, I was the head coach. I probably should have been paying more attention. I'm not taking full blame for it, but something I was doing was making that happen. I didn't do my job well enough to keep that from happening. That coach didn't feel comfortable enough coming to me. So it's not ever completely on one person. All right. I shouldn't say it. Most of the time, it's not completely on one person. But another bit of advice for coaching staffs. Okay. Think outside the box. Number one, read the room. Christy, going back to the story you told. I love that the coach understood, hey, I need a female on my staff to relate to these players. That's awesome. Yeah. Representation in this game is something that's important. Take a look at your bench. And I'm talking about ethnicity. I'm talking about gender. I'm talking about attitudes. I'm talking about emotions. Make sure you have people that can correspond with the group that you have. Yeah, we talked about this before. I'm not talking about going soft on anybody. I'm talking about make sure you have someone that can communicate effectively to the people you have on the bench. Next tip, coaches, head coaches especially, get your staff together once in a while. And there's no excuse not to, even in the pandemic. We have text, we have Zoom, and you might be in an area you can go get a beer or go to the restaurant together. Meet up every once in a while. Just talk. You'd be surprised how much a once a month talk outside the rink can have a massive effect on your coaching staff because you can air stuff out. You can talk. You can say, it really frustrated me when this happened. Or maybe you guys are commiserating over the same thing and none of you know it. This is a recommendation for every team environment, not just coaching staffs, by the way. But have a conversation. You shouldn't be afraid to talk to your staff. when that comes up. And, like I said, guys, a great coaching staff based on availability. I got to keep saying that because I know there are organizations that it's not possible to have a huge staff, and God bless those coaches that really dedicate their time and they're out there by themselves and they're doing the best they can. I really, really mean that. But Mike is saying it too. Vet these people, find people that fill the gap. You got annoying parents, give them a role, get them on the camera, get them doing stats. Here's the nice part about it. Mike, you'll probably admit this too. The really annoying parent, when you go to them and say, hey, you know what? I love that you're so passionate about the success of this team and your child. I'd love for you to do plus minus for the rest of the season. They may jump on it, or they might go, I don't want to do that. It's okay. You don't hear from them too much anymore after that. All right. Give them a role.
I just literally just did that. I had one parent that said, I played college hockey. I do this. I've done that. I can skate. I play adult league still. I'd love to help out. I do not want to do anything off the ice. Okay, great. And now I know you don't want to be moving the boards or helping with the nets or getting the water bottles. He doesn't want it. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if I have a ice on, because, they all want, all the parents want to help, do the power play. I get it. But
shoot the puck, shoot it.
I know how to yell, shoot puck. Okay. You're perfect for me, then. I need four of you.
Every coaching staff needs to
nobody shoots the puck, damn it. So I think you're absolutely right. It's a matter of just finding those good people, asking them what they want to do. And you're going to find good people. I do this presentation for my other life. And that's the one thing that we, go ask people what they want to do. And all of a sudden you find great things that you didn't even know you needed. And because people, outside of the coaching world have all these great expertise in organization and promotion and, nutrition and all these other great things. Use those people and advocate for them to help. Right. Don't put the shield up and say, this is the staff and we're a closed knit group and there's nobody allowed in. I mean, even USA Hockey was doing it for years.
This is our 10U staff. You can't come in the room.
Even USA Hockey was doing it for years. I don't know if they still do it. I'll look it up and see. But you used to be able to, used to apply to go out to the NDTP program and shadow the National Development Team program. Probably not during COVID, but before that, you'd go out there on a Thursday. You'd fly in. You'd have breakfast with the coaching staff. You'd be in their practice sessions. You'd be in the video sessions. You'd watch the game. You'd break down the game. You'd be in the next day, the breakdown, and you'd be immersed in the coaching staff. And this was every weekend for months and months and months. And they weren't like, oh my God, we don't want to let people behind the curtain. They were like, we're a collaborative group here. We're trying to make the game better. If we can make the game better by helping coaches be better, then that's great. And if you can, if you're an organizational leader and you listen to this, give your coaches the room to find good coaches. Make those coaches room. Give them an area to themselves. Give them a coffee club opportunity. Pay for them to maybe get together
or have a Zoom session once,
have a group session, and give them, continuing education, and say, even listen to this podcast, go out and find yourself two good coaches. And I think sometimes that's the only nudge you need. I literally watched 4 high school games this weekend, one high school game with one coach on the bench and one coach in practice. And it just doesn't, it's so hard to work this way. Yeah. It's so hard. It's unfortunate because it's not right for the kids.
It's a chicken with a head off scenario.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And let's all agree, coaching is really hard. You need help, but you need to surround yourself with positive people who help support that positive messaging as well. Yeah.
And just rounding out this episode too, I want to say this too, and I alluded to this earlier. Look, if you're on a staff right now that's not great, you're not having a good time, learn from it. All right. Don't quit coaching because you have a bad staff. All right. We have a saying in coaching, never be a kid's last coach, meaning that you're so bad the kid doesn't want to play a sport anymore. But if you're on a bad staff, it happens. I've been on bad staffs before. All right. Now it's only made me learn because I decided to say, okay, what's going wrong here? What can I learn about the situation so I don't apply it in the future? And look, you're not always going to have a great season. I don't know anyone that's coached and had great seasons every year that they coached. But it's not a reason to stop. You got to learn. I've said this on the show many times. It's like my quote: good coaches know everything. Great coaches know nothing. You're constantly learning. Again, quick recap of the episode. 1, build trust. Understand trust and standards. Surround yourself with people that fill your gaps and can understand those standards to start to work together. Meet with each other. Talk with each other. Communicate. When it comes to practices, you can't have enough people out there to help you, right? Parents, overbearing parent, give them a roll and watch how they fly or drop off right away, and then additionally too, like, it's not about you. I can't stress that one enough. Right. I became a more successful coach when I dropped the ego, dropped my reasons for doing it personally, and just made it about my players. Not only did I find more enjoyment in that and more satisfaction in that, but, and I'm not patting myself on the back. The win record got better. Everything got better from that. Because I think about those kids or the players when I do everything. Right. I think about my coaching staff too. Don't get me wrong. It's not selflessness to the point of, I'm unhealthy, but it's not about me. Like if they play the games, I had my time on the ice. I'm very thankful for that, but I'm not on the ice anymore. They're on the ice, whether they're 8, 18, or 38. Right. It doesn't matter. So I hope we've given some great tips today, because this is a really good episode. And like most of our episodes, you guys, it's not always an answer. There's not always like, this is how you do it. Sometimes we have episodes like that, but this is just our opinions and our thoughts. And these are the conversations that aren't happening that need to happen. Actually, one last point, Mike, I was actually bringing this up to my staff the other day. Like, why are all the Mike coaches, all of them in our organization, why don't we have a Zoom meeting once a month so we can compare what we're doing from the A team down? Why don't we have a organizational coaches meeting once a month where all the coaches are there and we can share what's working, what's not working? Now, I know there's time constraints. People got to work, but if I'm a good organization, I want to know what the A team's doing. I want to know what the B team's doing, what's working and what's not. That's coaching. That's learning. Right. But what's funny, and I didn't get this with this team, but you hear this, we can't because this guy won't let that happen. Well, what the hell is that? You don't let one person stop you from having a meeting and learning and talking with each other. And, that's another, we got to learn from each other as coaches. Nobody knows how to do it one way, right? At 22, I knew everything. I knew how I wanted to do it. I was the best coach in the world. I was going to be the best coach in the world. I needed to learn from other coaches. I was wrong, right? That's the key here. So anyway, look, we're going to round this out. I'm going to give final thoughts for you two. Before I slide into my close, but I just love these episodes because we're bringing things to life.
And also for everybody listening, all different levels of experiences here. We would love to hear from you. Absolutely. So, maybe we hit a chord with you and you're like, oh, that sounds really familiar, or you're going through the same thing, or you need a little bit of advice. We'd love to hear from you because we're kind of like the Dear Abbeys of hockey.
That's a great way to look at it.
So
I like that. Dear Christie.
Reach out to us if you got something on your mind, you want something to address, or you just want to talk. We'd love to hear from you.
See, Christy, what's going to happen is you're going to get the Dear Christie emails of like, I really related with what you said in the last episode. And Mike's going to be like, Dear Mike.
Get the hate mails.
Yeah. Dear Mike, listen, how come the party hasn't been planned yet for the end of the season?
Don't if you're somebody that
don't hate on us.
If you're somebody that coached with me, please do not make any comments or questions. I don't want to hear from you because I probably fired you for a reason, or you left.
I'm kind of hoping they're listening now, Mike. I bet we could use a little drama on this show. Right?
I get all the time. I get all the time. Like, hey, coach, I saw your Facebook post and I listened to your podcast. And he's like, when did you change? Like, when did you get like that? I go, well, let me here, get on the phone. Let's have a conversation about it.
Look, I'm going to say this right now, Mike, for everybody listening. Christy is a trailblazer in her own right in the world that you work in, and she's a hockey mom. I value her opinion so much because I'm just at the beginning of my parenting journey. Doesn't matter where I coach. She has the full breadth of experience here, of kids going through hockey. And then Mike, like here's the thing, Mike, I always say this about you. If you're not from the Northeast United States, Mike has that Northeast condescension that we all have here, which is I know and you don't. It seems like that. But when I look at Mike, you break Mike down. I'm going to compliment you. You didn't ask me to do this. I see a guy dedicating immense amount of times to getting his practice plans right. A guy who genuinely cares about his kids, right? I see a guy that doesn't want to deal with all the extracurricular crap of people's opinions just to give him their opinions. There's no value behind them other than I just want to be heard. That's the type of guy you want to work for. And when I say about removing ego, Mike, I'd love to be on a bench with you, right? Because here's the deal. I'm sure you would annoy me in the way that you speak, but I trust you. That's okay, right? Because I know your core is correct. You're doing it for the right reasons, right? Like it's okay if you're abrasive because maybe that's just not my role in that team. I understand that. My ego doesn't overtake me there. There's trust there. There's respect there. That's the type of guy you want to look for. You don't want to look for just the easiest person to get along with in the room. That doesn't make any forward progress. Right. So listen,
Well,
Mike,
thanks.
I've known you long enough to say this. You're a great coach. You're a great person. All right. And if anybody, I'm not speaking to anybody specifically because I don't know the people you deal with, but people who can't see that are missing the point. They're probably making it about themselves or just their kid. All right.
No, well,
Last thing I'll say, Mike, and I'd love for you to comment on this. And Christy, I don't even know if you know this. This is so true of good coaches. I can't speak for everybody. If people understood, not just throw the tactics away, throw all the practice plans away. I wish you knew how much we care about your kid. It's not something we can ever really talk about, but I wish you knew how much we care about your kid, even the ones that piss us off. I wish you knew. Okay. I can never be your kid's parent. That's your job, right? That's your right. But we care so much more about your kid than you think as a coach, right? And it gets swept under the rug sometimes with some of the other stuff that we have to do. But Mike, I know you feel that way too.
Yeah, I mean, for the same reason that we can't value who we are as adults based off what our kids do athletically, it's the same way I look at coaching. Like I don't judge players that play for me based off how much I dislike their mom or dad.
Right.
Like or how much their mom and dad dislike me. I mean, because I realize that, when you're on the other side of the glass, your only focus is on your kid. I get it. It's human nature.
Yeah.
If I ask for a highlight video of the game, like, hey, listen, I need some video of that shift, and the 7 parents that are all taking video, it would just be of their kid. I couldn't even use it because it's just their kid. It's like,
right.
Did
you see what he did? Did you see what he did here? Did you see what he did?
Did you see him make that play? I'm like, no, I didn't see him make the play. I saw what happened afterwards. My God, but I think the piece of it is, I do. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's, and it's not just me, because I know all the most of the coaches I associate with and are around. If a kid gets hurt, I feel for that. If a kid doesn't like their ice time, I generally feel for that. If a child is out there and is not loving coming to the rink, I feel for that. And there's no coach that I know, none, that looks to say, I'm here to make sure your kid fails today. It just doesn't happen. And so, but
they won't be coaching long if it does happen. I'll tell you.
All the pieces that go into place to help you, like I said in our last episode of the yelling and the screaming, I'm just trying to improve every single day. Right. I'm not even asking for people to be perfect. I'm not expecting parents to be perfect. But when you're managing 15 or 20, in my case, young men, it's different than managing one. And when you care about 15, it's different than caring about your kid.
Right.
And that's something, a perspective I think all of us as parents have to see, because it's just a different, unique role that we're in, and nobody's out to see your kids fail. But you can influence that one way or the other very easily.
Yeah, that's a great point. You can.
Yeah, and it's hard to see it when you're in it. So it's
right.
really important. That's such a great message. Listen to that, parents. Listen to that. That's so important.
You might think you're helping,
yeah.
but you're not, and Mike, actually, you just brought up a topic for another great episode that we'll do here, which is how to coach when your own kid's on the team. That's a great topic. And I'll tell you right now, just based on what you said, Mike, because you're right. It's something you made me think about. Every parent's focused on their kid. Not that you don't care about the other kids, but man, try being on a bench with your kid and not being able to do that. Right. You have to focus on all the kids. And I've had situations, my kid, has come up to me on the bench and needs some emotional support. And I have to make a decision. I'm always there for my kid. Right. But is the timing right? I have to treat him like a player on the team, not just my kid. It can get tough. So I just want to finish on that note again. Any coach who's a real coach, because there are coaches out there that are really bad, but a real coach cares about your kid. Okay. I care about every kid I've ever coached. I really mean that. Even the ones that are disruptive and annoy me beyond belief, my thought is still, how can I help this person? It doesn't always happen. All right. But I don't ever remember a situation where I genuinely didn't care genuinely about a kid on the team. And if I got to that point, they're not going to be on the team that long. Right. Or I'm not going to be there that long. It can go both ways. So anyway, a lot of positives in this episode. Phenomenal. I just love doing this every week. We say it on every show. It's like therapy for the three of us. It's wonderful. Obviously, as Christy said, if you like what you heard, subscribe, leave reviews. That really helps us out in terms of getting the show out there. And tell your friends, tell your parents, hey, listen to this great podcast. It means a lot to us. Like the growing of the audience, not just to popularize the podcast, but we want to be there. We want to be a resource for parents, for coaches, for everybody in the youth hockey level. When we made the show, it didn't exist. That's why we made it. There's no show from hockey parents about the hockey culture at the youth level. So that is going to do it for this episode. So for Mike Bunnell, the coach, for Christy Casciano-Burr, who is also a coach. You just found that out today.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, thank you for listening to Our Kids Play Hockey. Check us out, ourkidsplayhockey.com, or wherever podcasts can be heard. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody.